Hi, my name's Paul Marsh. I'm here today to extend our episodes to episode 7 and talk about how to add personality to your bot. And we're going to do that by using a service called Q&A Maker. So just as a quick recap, let's launch our bot. Where do we get up to? So we can enter things like, what do you think of the health service? And our bot will say, thanks for asking about health. Shall I expand on that? We can just say no. So that's a sort of well-rehearsed dialogue that we have. But what happens if you try and do something a little bit weird, a little bit wacky? Is it going to add some sort of personality to the response? So if we said something like, marry me, it's just going to come back and say, I didn't understand what you said. And that's not a very good sort of simulation of a person. You would expect something other than that as a response. So let's see what we can do about that. So if we go and look for a service called Q&A Maker, select that. Okay, so this is the main sort of instructions. And just to give you an overview of what it does, is it's built on Lewis. So previously we saw that you can type in an utterance, such as something about the health service, and that intent would be health. What this tries to do is deal with some common scenarios and help you out. So for example, if you were selling products like cameras and you had a lot of camera manuals, then what you might want to do is create a Lewis model that would say something like, how do I change the lens of a camera? How do I change the battery for a Canon 500? And then it would point to an intent, which would be the name of the document or a PDF document, for example, of the Canon. Now what this will do, what Q&A Maker will do, is it allows you to import those documents, and it will use Azure Search and Indexing to look over that document, find the phrases, the utterances that it wants, create those utterances, and create that Lewis model for us. So it's quite useful. So we'll do that now. So we're going to create a knowledge base. In fact, I've got one already signed in. So let's come here and do create a knowledge base. So the first step is it's going to ask you to create a Q&A service. Now, if you haven't already got one of those, this is going to take you off to your Azure portal. It's going to hold your hand through creating a Q&A, a cognitive service endpoint. And just as a quick tip, when it says F0, that means free. So that's the one you want to choose. Go for the free one. Now, I've already got one of these, so I don't have to do that. Or then you press refresh as well after you do that, and make sure you do that. Otherwise, these things won't be populated. But as you can see, mine are populated, so I'm going to come in here, choose my various bits, and that's a cognitive service. That's the thing I've created in there, small talk. Now I'm going to call this small talk tutorial. That's the name of it. And here you can populate your knowledge base. Now this is where you could add those documents, like those Canon documents, or you can add a site that would go and scan over those documents. But we don't want to do either of those. We want to use this feature called Chit Chat, and we want to add a personality to it. Now, again, this is supposed to be a politician, so I don't think comic, certainly not friend. So I'm going to go with the professional one here, and we're going to create that knowledge base. And what that's going to do for us is it's going to use a pre-canned set of personality phrases that give answers to those phrases. As in Q&A, question and answer. So here we've got what's your age? Are you young? So these are all those sorts of quirky questions you might want to ask the bot, try and catch it out. But now it will actually respond with age doesn't really apply to me, or I'm better at answering questions, or I don't have a body for this, can you sleep? You know, all those sorts of things. So it's all pre-canned, it's all done for us. So we can just go ahead and publish that. Hang tight. So this will create our endpoint and give us the information we need. So here we've got our host. Here we've got our endpoint and we've got our knowledge base ID here. So how do we go about using this stuff? Okay, so let's go back to the documentation. and we want to use it in our C# demo. So where do we go? Is it quick starts? Getting answers? No, that's all the rest stuff. Tutorials, create a bot. Here we are. Tutorial, create a Q&A bot is your service V3. No, we don't want V3. So here we are, topic V3. And find the V4 one. It's great. So if we go to V4, and this takes us through what we were just sort of talking about here, all the way down to update your bot file. Brilliant. So this is the new bit in here. Now we had something like this for Lewis before, so this shouldn't be completely new to you, but let's come into our project. Now I've got my Maybot bot here, and it's got my secrets in it, so I'm not going to show you that one. Right, I'll go to the example. So you paste that in here. So our type is Q&A. The small talk is just the name that you refer to it in this project. It doesn't have to match the thing we just created, but just to know that you need to remember that this is the key. The ID just mustn't clash with anything in here. This is the knowledge base ID we've got from that publish page that we just saw, and the endpoint, and also the web. Just note that it hasn't got that. We come back in here. Where's our Q&A published Q&A thing? The host here has the Q&A maker part on it. You don't want that. You just want the domain at the front of it. So we've got that bit. That's great. What do we need to do? What's it telling us to do next? So it's going to initialize it. Great. That's what we want. So here we've got our Q&A endpoint. Let's grab that. Now we use the sample that has multiple or allows for multiple services. So our code is slightly different. But here we are. We've got our Lewis service. So we need to add a new service type to cater for that. Oops. Yep. Service types. Is there a Q&A in here? Yes, there is. That's great. So we can just paste that in there with a break. We need to grab the Q&A instance. So let's just grab that thing here and come back and do the same. We did it here for Lewis. Doing pretty much the same thing here. Q&A service. Brilliant. So we need to add it to something. So they're doing that here. Oh, Q&A maker. Add that. We haven't got our little dictionary of Q&A services yet, so we'll just copy the one from Lewis. And we're creating Q&A maker things. So let's call this Q&A. So that's great. That should have registered that service. So hopefully we should be good to go there. Let's just do a quick build, make sure we haven't done anything too silly. Good. So how do we use it? Okay, so back in here, documentation, they're creating a bot, nothing particularly interesting in there, calling a bot, there we are. So this is our response here. So we can go back to our main bot now. So this is where we get our top intent, this is where our Lewis stuff is coming from, so let's just put it in here. And we call this services. This was called small talk. So that's the thing from our bot config again. This thing. Let's call that. Let's just see whether that worked. So we're all up and running. Let's try marry me again. Now, do we get? Well, we'll get understand, but because we haven't changed the code to cope with this yet. But have we got a response? So let's have a look. Looks like we got a response, and here's the answer. I think it's best if we stick to a professional relationship. Well, that sounds quite good. It also tells us the document that it came from, and also any other questions we got. But crucially, it also gives us a score. So that's quite a reasonable score, 70% score. So that's great. So then we carry on and mid-process that. But how we're just going to do, I don't understand. So let's do a little bit more work in here then. So if the response doesn't equal null, and the response, let's it's an array of responses, so make sure we've got at least some response in there. And then we're going to do, where's the context, turn context, let's send activity. We're going to send the answer back. So the activity we want is, it's just, I don't like it called that. That's my rename. Let's call it Q&A response. That's a bit better. So it's got an array, so we just grab the first one for now, grab the answer out of it, and we can display that. And if we do that, I don't actually want to process the rest of it, so we'll just do the small talk. I mean, we won't do even the dialogue, we won't even allow you to continue, or it won't go into the dialogue and continue doing it. So let's run that. So we're intercepting the current flow. We're not destroying the current flow, we're just intercepting it. At least the intent was not to destroy it. Okay, so let's try that again. Marry me. I think it's best if we stick to professional relationship. That's great. So we've now injected a little bit of personality into the bot. But if you notice, if you marry me again, it's a bit, really, you're just going to keep on saying the same thing back. That's not a great personality, is it? So one thing you can do is extend how this works, and I've already done that. Save you watching me write it. So we've got something, we've added something called random answer. So let's go and look what random answer is. So what random answer does is it takes in that result, and then it looks at this dictionary that we create here, and this dictionary is keyed on the answer. So I think it's best if we stick to professional relationship. If we get that as an answer, we've got these alternative answers. And then what random answer does is it simply chooses between either one of the alternatives or the original answer. So let's just run that up again. Oh, I got an error somewhere. Yeah, there we are. Try it again. So let's go back to, let's try marry me again. Now, random with just 3 options might not give us an amazingly random set of answers. No, thank you, I'm happily married. Okay. I think it's best. So you can see that we get at least some kind of personality to it. Obviously, the more answers, the more alternative answers you give, the better the illusion that you're actually talking to something. So hopefully you can see that you could extend that to go further. So what do we do now? So if I type in an actual thing that we wanted to do, so what do you think about the health service? Go back to our interview. Love is beyond me. Well, I mean, at the moment, that's the kind of response I might expect to get from our politicians, but it's not really kind of what I want from this politician. So what's happening there? So let's have a little look. So if we go back to our Q&A response, I'll just do that again. What do you think about the health service? So we've got a response. It's not null, but it's not good. It's not really of a standard that I want. So we could do something similar to what we've done down here. So where we looked at the top score and we said it's got to be above 50%, otherwise we're just going to say it's none. But actually Q&A Maker, as I say, it is built on these services, and it's there to try and help us out as much as it can. It's got an override here, Q&A Maker options. So let's have a look at that. Q&A Maker options. New Q&A Maker options. What options do we have? We've got a score threshold. Excellent. That's really helpful. And I don't want to get any more than one. I'm only really interested in the top one, so it's also got a ranking. So put that in there. And now if we run the same thing, what do you think, spell about the health service? So we got a response still. Oh, no, we don't, because the threshold hasn't been met. So we've actually got no responses, which means it's not going to do the Q&A, which therefore means we are going to get our previous flow. Shall I expand on that? Thanks for asking about health. Shall I expand on that? No. Oh well. Right, so that's good. So we got our interception of small talk when we want it. Or do we? Actually, that's a good point. So let's just try that again. What do you think about the health service? Thanks. Shall I expand on that? Marry me. I think it's best if we stick to professional. So currently, the way I've got it set up is that the chit chat, the small talk, is intercepting before it goes into the flow. Now, I don't really think that's a good idea. I wouldn't recommend it's done that way, but it's easy enough to move. Right? We just move all of this out into one of our steps. And so if we wanted to put that into our flow, we can move it into the flow, and that's easy enough. But for the sake of this demo, it's just quicker to just put it, and dirtier just to put it in here. So hopefully you've got an idea of how you might want to use Q&A services to enhance your bot and give it some kind of personality. Thanks for listening.